This session, like I mentioned in the opening session, I really hope that it becomes a fixture of Eyecelerator, because these are intended to be the products that have just launched or are ideally launching here at this meeting or launching in the very near future, and the ones that have a shot at changing how we practice every day, changing the marketplace. And so we're getting ready to take off with the Wheels Up session. I couldn't be more excited to introduce my good friend and one of my now good friends who was a professor of mine at Duke, Leon Herndon. I showed up at Duke for the first day of residency. He was hosting a barbecue at his home. I thought, boy, what a great family atmosphere. Hi, Dr. Herndon. I'm John Berdahl, one of the first-year residents, and he said, we're going to work you hard. Here's some beans. And Nicole Fram, one of the real leading ladies in ophthalmology, doing the hardest stuff and involved everywhere, and a good friend. And so, guys, let's hear from these companies, introduce you two, and let's really bring a lot of value in this session. Thanks a bunch.
Good morning, and thanks, John. I'm so excited that you're excited about this session. We're going to go ahead and kick this off. So the ground rules are that we'll have the first two companies come up now, STAAR Surgical and B&L reps, if you come to the stage. We have 10 minutes for each company. There have been questions submitted to us from the strategics, and we have questions of our own that we'd like to ask the companies. And we'll ask the first two companies to stay through both sessions and have the second two sessions, the third and fourth companies, steer nearby so they can come right to the stage. So first up is STAAR Surgical. So we'd like the STAAR Surgical folks to introduce themselves, and we'll have one representative come to the podium on that side to talk a little bit about their first slide. So STAAR Surgical.
So good afternoon, or maybe it's still good morning, everyone. My name is Warren Foust, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for STAAR Surgical.
Good morning, I'm David Chormanski, Vice President of Global Consumer Marketing for STAAR.
Good morning, I'm Jim Francese, Senior Vice President Commercial for STAAR.
Good, let's have this slide up for STAAR Surgical, please.
Nice to see everybody. So first of all, we're really excited at STAAR Surgical. We've just recently in the last year, but really in the last 6 months, had a chance to launch the EVO ICL. And so the graphic that we wanted to put up, we won't spend a lot of time talking about. We really wanted it just to be a background for the discussion, which I think will be an important one. But the excitement of 2 million lives that have been changed and touched through implantation of the EVO ICL shows us that we have not just a new product, we have a product that's going to have, that's had incredible trajectory outside of the US, but as we bring it into the US, we're really, really excited about it. So that's first. The thing that is most exciting and is reaffirming to us is the 99.4% satisfaction that patients have played back to us. In fact, it's not just patients that are satisfied. Recently, we surveyed over 900 surgeons, and we saw those same exciting levels of satisfaction from our customers too. And so we know that happy customers and happy surgeons lead to growth over the refractive practice. And so we're really, really excited about that. And then I think the thing that David Chormanski will talk about later, really importantly, investment in the space. It's been a long time since we've had this level of consumer investment to drive awareness to patients so that our clinicians will see these patients and have a chance to treat these refractive errors. EVO ICL we see it as it's an adjunct to laser refractive surgery. So it's not the only treatment, but it is an amazing treatment, and it's one that our customers have given us a lot of excitement about. And so we'll talk later, but you see the Jonas Brothers there. We put them up for the image. Recently just signed a new agreement with them. We're sponsoring their tour, which is kicking off on August 8th at my friend Tom Frenzy's Yankee Stadium. So that'll be a lot of excitement, and hopefully you'll see that in the press.
Thanks so much. I have the first question. As a glaucoma specialist, and ICL has had a bad name in our field for some time. How's your EVO different? And tell also about the holes, positioning holes, I guess the holes in the device, the implant, that precludes the need for LPIs, I guess.
Hey, the addition of the hole to the ICL has really changed a lot of things. Most notably, practitioner confidence. When the first ones went in, people were asking, is the hole going to work? And the hole has worked very well to where we have over 2 million ICL implants. So the fluid flows through the hole smoothly. and it also changes the way the practice can use the lens because folks don't have to come in for the peripheral iridotomies earlier. So that has also aided adoption.
So one of the hurdles of taking a surgeon from being just a corneal refractive surgeon to a lens-based surgeon with EVO has been the sizing issues. So yes, the holes are great, and hopefully will prevent some cataracts there. But can you speak to the vaulting issues, and are you guys going to have a better way of measuring so that we can just speed the process up in terms of sizing?
So maybe I'll start and then I'll ask Jim to jump in. I think it's important. Bernie Haffey's probably here somewhere. We've gone through the HPMS process at STAAR, and we've identified 2 or 3 really critical areas for the success of the organization. One of the things that we heard from our customers is concerns around sizing and just general inventory management. When you're a company that's growing double-digit in every market, and in some markets nearly 100%, it puts a lot of pressure on our ordering process, puts a lot of pressure on supply chain. So we're focused on addressing those, and one of those issues is the sizing component as well. So know that that's a critical focus for us. But there's also some training components that I think our surgeons have to understand, and I think Jim can talk about some of those things.
Hey, in addition to what Warren said, we understand that with a new device in the US, there are different preoperative steps that are needed. So we've recently done a significant expansion of our field team, including clinical applications folks, practice development folks, and training and sales folks in order to help bring customized solutions for the US closer to the doctors. And we're working on educating on sizing and inventory management and delivering torics, as Warren mentioned.
So what is the current percentage of your customer base, OUS, performing LASIK and SMILE? And do you anticipate this will be similar in the US?
So almost all of our customers that perform EVO ICLs also have a laser refractive practice. So it's very common for customers, particularly in China, where we have a large portion of business, to have a laser. So again, we see this as an opportunity as an and, not an or. What we're finding is many of the surgeons, as a gateway, they start with PRK patients, or they start with high myopes, but we see them gradually start to come down the diopter curve as they get more comfortable and satisfied, and as, again, they see that high patient satisfaction.
You know, I think it's so interesting because I have been very hesitant to adopt this technology until EVO came out. And when EVO came out, I was like, okay, this is my time. This is my time to get involved. So, you know, what I would think would be really beneficial is if you guys came up with a really nice imaging system that maybe we can use in the OR to not just take it just to the IOL, but just add something else. And I think that that may increase the adoption in the US. Can you speak to why is it adopted so readily in China, and you have these crowded anterior chambers, yet here the adoption just hasn't been so good, whether it was EVO or whether it's the older version?
I'll take a crack at this, and then I'll ask David Chormanski to chime in just on how we're raising awareness. But there's a bit of a misconception, actually, about the U.S. launch and the traction here versus in China. If you go back to 2016, which was really when we launched in China, when we look at our premium versus primary approach and the strategic launch in China, that first year we grew 35%. That was 2016. 2017, we grew 48%. It was only in the third year that we saw the massive growth of roughly 91% growth in the third year. The first year, last year, with EVO in the United States, we grew at 48%. So we reached the second year growth rate, if you will, in China. So we're actually really optimistic. We understand the inertia around the laser refractive market is intense. We understand that it's going to take time to build a market. We're building a market, which is super fun. And we believe that it's going to be that second, third year, but when we really get the traction. But we're reaching out to consumers, we're engaging physicians, and so maybe David can talk about that a bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as you mentioned with your earlier questions, there's 2 areas that we look to increase the adoption. One is, again, addressing your questions and concerns. And the other part of it is the adoption of the consumer himself. We've actually done a lot of consumer outreach in China before the pandemic. We do celebrity campaigns in Japan and Korea, and especially in China and Korea, where we see consumer awareness at 99%, 89%. That's what we're doing, and the investment behind Joe Jonas and now the Jonas Brothers campaign, which we'll be launching, having educated patients, we see all boats rising for you. Because again, now we're bringing in people who've been sitting on the sidelines. We see 6 million people dropping out of contact lenses a year in the US alone. And there's an opportunity to bring patients in who are looking for laser. There are people who've been rejected from laser. And then you have people who are sitting on the sidelines for their own personal reasons. So that ability to bring more and more people, we help build your refractive future. And that's what we've done in China, Japan, Korea, and now we'll do here.
So what does success look like for you in 5 years?
Sure. We believe that we're an additive procedure. There's a lot of people who are on the sidelines still, so we believe that EVO can be an important day-to-day part. So our goal is to have EVO make patients happy, grow refractive practices, and we believe we can add patients to the refractive pool that aren't there today.
The only thing I would add to that, I just think that the comprehensive refractive surgeon, this is a place in their practice where they can really delight a patient. And then it's going to be up to that surgeon and to that patient together through consultation to decide what's best for them. And it's very likely that laser refractive correction will be a mainstay for many, many years, as will EVO, and the two will work together to build that surgeon's practice and to delight those patients.
I have a clinical question for you. The hole in the center of the optic, do patients, are they bothered by glare? What's the feedback we hear from that?
Most patients immediately post-operatively notice the hole. Like a lot of differences that happen in an optical system during surgery, the patient becomes unaware of it quickly. So we do not have a problem with patients persistently seeing glare, but there is a short adoption period afterwards, but it quickly goes away.
Okay, I want to thank STAAR Surgical if you stay on the podium.
Don't leave. All right, thank you guys. I really applaud you for, reinventing this technology in such a way that I think as lens-based surgeons or corneal refractive surgeons, we're really going to want to learn more over the years. Great. So our next company is Bausch Lomb. I want you guys to introduce yourself, and we're going to talk about the Apthera IC8 technology.
Sure, thank you very much, and good morning. I'm Chuck Hess. I'm the Vice President of our Commercial Development and Digital Health Platforms for B&L.
And I'm Anthony Wallace, and I'm Vice President and General Manager of the U.S. Surgical Business. So thank you for the opportunity to come and present what we're doing today and just share a little bit about our company as well as our new technology in the IC8 Apthera. So first of all, Bausch Lomb is a 170-year-old company, and literally 2 days from now will be the 1-year anniversary that we became a separate publicly traded company. So we're really excited about that and what this means. We're a fully integrated eye care company that really services the patient at all aspects of life. We operate in more than 100 countries around the world, and we reach more than 80% of the world's population with a Bausch Lomb product. So we're really excited to invest in this new technology. We do have a research and development arm of our business, and we also look for external opportunities as well. And we know great technology when we see it, which created our interest in the AccuFocus business, and specifically the Apthera IC8. So this is the first and only small aperture non-toric extended depth of focus IOL for certain cataract patients who have as much as 1.5 diopters of corneal astigmatism and who wish to address presbyopia at the same time. One of the challenges, I don't want to start off with a challenge, but one of the challenges we had when we acquired AccuFocus, and this is great science, great technology, a group of people fully dedicated. They spent 14 years of their life bringing small aperture to market, but one of the challenges was resources. So we've spent a lot of time since January really ramping up the supply chain, trying to simplify the process of getting lenses available so we can fulfill the needs of customers and patients. So we went through what was called a phase 1 launch in the first quarter of the year with a very small subset of surgeons who had some patients and they wished to line it up. We implanted about 200 patients, and our goal was to really gather data and experience to be able to move that forward. Moving forward now after the acquisition, we've trained about 120 sales representatives and educators to go out and give a really good experience of how to implant the lens. And that took place in April, and now we're actually operational out there with our surgeons and our sales team. Still a limited number of lenses available. Our goal is to implant about 1,500 lenses during the second quarter. And then finally, as we get past to the back half of the year, we broaden the launch with more availability of lenses, and the goal is to reach a little over 5,000 patients by the end of the year. So it's really about building and learning right now, sharing data, gathering data, and then ultimately preparing for a broad-scale launch that we can effectively reach all of the surgeons and patients that want access to the lens.
Thank you so much. So the first question is, what percentage of the market do you anticipate capturing? Is your ideal candidate one that would choose a multifocal IOL, a monofocal IOL, or a complex candidate?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, first of all, the market is, as we mentioned, you know, there is about 82% of the market that have less than a diopter and a half of corneal astigmatism. So we have a very broad range of market to work with. When you look at where this nets out, especially over the 5 years, I hesitate to go too far out because technology changes so fast. But if you look over the next, let's call it 5 years, I do think this nets out where you have multiple great options for patients. Maybe a third of them have options to trifocal, a third are standard extended depth of focus, and maybe a third move to more of the small aperture technology. One of the things to keep in mind, if you think about the premium lenses and the penetration, we'll call it about 10% of the market. Within that 10%, the trifocal and the EDOF is 2 eyes, right? So we're at 1 eye, right? So you have to kind of break that in half. But we believe that there is a good place in the market for this, and we believe it's a great option for surgeons and for patients.
So, Chuck, I am so happy that you guys took on this technology, but what were you thinking? In Europe, this has not been adopted, right? As readily as I think we want it to be adopted here. And crazy cornea surgeons are just going to go after this. So how are you going to control me? And how are you going to, I was part of the trial, and AcuFocus did an incredible job. And how are you going to convince everyone that this pinhole lens in 1 eye and a regular monofocal in another eye is going to be a good idea?
Well, Nicole, that's a great lead into I think an opportunity that we saw with this technology, and yes, the company did an amazing job bringing this technology to the market. They were I think a little limited in what they could in their bandwidth in Europe, and so I think they've done a very nice job in certain markets within Europe, as well as Australia, to really bring this technology into the market. And so we saw it as actually a great opportunity because of our reach in over 100 markets globally, for us to actually take this technology on and really introduce it into some of these global markets. But I think the opportunity that we saw with this platform, which was super exciting, which was all the great regulatory work that they did to have this technology positioned in the EDOF space, which was super. It's the very first technology that's approved and has an indication for monovision. So, and we know that monovision is really an important procedure in the portfolio of the surgeon. So those were some of the things that we started to look at as far as where this could potentially fit into our portfolio. And as you know, years and years ago, we launched the first accommodating platform in the market. So we felt like Bausch Lomb was really ideally suited to launch a new technology that was unmatched in the marketplace. And so the small aperture really fit into our strategic vision. And then ultimately knowing all of the investment that we've made in R&D over the last several years to bring newer lenses to the market. We've got a whole host of products coming over the next 3 years. We think that we're going to have a beautiful platform of alternatives for every surgeon who's looking to pair a lens with a patient need. And that's really the strategy that we were focused on.
Where does this particular lens fit in the cataract surgeon's bag? With all the different options that we have, how does he recommend to Ms. Jones which lens would be best for her?
Well, we think that it's an excellent EDOF technology, and what we're hearing now with the lens and what we saw through the clinical trial was that when this lens is paired with an excellent monofocal lens like an Invista IOL, we don't have any degradation in contrast sensitivity. So we believe that the platform can really serve in those markets where, in those practices where EDOF technology is a go-to, where monovision is well utilized in those practices. And we think that that technology really lends itself well to the market that is trying to address astigmatism at a 1.5 diopter. So we think that this is really a uniquely positioned product. We see really good performance in all ranges of vision with the platform, and so we're really excited to get it out there and get it in the hands of more surgeons to really explore its broad capabilities.
So you have a patient and for some reason they don't want to have a trifocal because they drive a lot at night. How do you take them through the expectations of this lens? Will they have dimming? Will they have issues because of the inlay? What are we supposed to say to these patients?
Well, I think there's a lot to that question, and I think what we're finding is that there's challenges with all premium intraocular lenses. We all know what some of those challenges are. What we do know is that this product does fit into a really good platform where you can implant this implant into one eye and a great monofocal or a toric IOL into the other, and really preserve that contrast sensitivity. So we think that the combination of these platforms really gives us the ability to deliver that great confidence. Now, I think it's up to the surgeon really to understand their patient and how their patient will adapt to different types of intraocular lenses. We know the patient types that are really good for multifocals versus EDOFs or versus extended range of vision lenses. And so we think that in our partnership with doctors to really identify those great patients early on in the practice to address with this product and learn in the surgeon's hands how it performs is really one of the key things that we're encouraging physicians to do now in their practices.
You have a potential hold here because EDOF is more popular in the US than it is in Europe. In Europe, you either do a monofocal or you go trifocal. That's why trifocal is so popular, because it's out of pocket. Here, we love EDOF, but we hate dysphotopsia, even though I talk about it a lot. And so if this becomes an easy button and you aim -75 and you have a normal eye, it's an easy button, potentially. We'll have to see. But more importantly, for those patients off-label that have been thrown in the garbage or they're not going to have a good outcome, you guys have supplied something else in our armamentarium to help these patients that are so deserving. So I think that we're very excited to see what happens.
We are as well.
I'd just like to thank the first two companies, STAAR Surgical and Bausch Lomb, for sharing their time with us. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you.
Let me ask the Glaukos reps to introduce themselves and then LENSAR reps.
Cody McKenzie, Vice President, Franchise Head of the Global Glaucoma Business at Glaukos.
Dave Haffner, Vice President of New Technologies at Glaukos.
Good morning, Tomas Navratil, Chief Development Officer at Glaukos.
Tomas, I think you're going to present the slide.
Thank you so much. So let me have the first slide, please. Thank you to the chairs for the opportunity to participate in this panel. And let's advance the slide, please. Thank you so much. As you know, more than 20 years ago, Glaukos was founded on the premise of transforming glaucoma therapy. And since then, we have outgrew that ambition and built fully integrated pipeline that integrates pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and drug device combinations across 3 subtherapeutic areas. Next slide, please. The slide is not showing up. And so utilizing this core concept that has been practiced at Glaukos since its inception to disrupt the traditional paradigm of topical eye drop use, we have built prospectively and proactively a glaucoma pipeline and portfolio that we believe is unsurpassed. This portfolio is based on the interventional glaucoma concept, which is an approach that aims to prevent disease progression early through interventions that address the key shortcomings of topical eye drop therapies. If you may have the first slide, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so within this interventional glaucoma concept, we are very excited to share with you an update on our iDose TR product. I would like to draw two distinctions. This product is not approved. It's an NDA filed stage, and we expect the PDUFA date and target FDA approval by the year's end. It's also not a medical device. It's primarily a pharmaceutical, so it's a drug-led drug-device combination. iDose TR is a microscopic implant that's localized at the iridocorneal angle and is designed to elute travoprost over multiple years. We have shown through our clinical program and two well-designed phase 3 studies, we met primary efficacy outcome. But today, for the first time, following disclosure in yesterday's earnings call, we are going to highlight that there's also a statistical superiority in IOP lowering due to iDose versus pre-study prostaglandin analog eye drops. So we are very excited about this data. This implant has been designed for multi-year use, but through our clinical program, we also explored multiple implantation cycles and demonstrated that there is no impact on corneal endothelium with patient follow-up across 2 implantation cycles and 5 to 6 year follow-up time frame. This is very important as we are targeting from the onset labeling for unlimited repeat use of the product. We believe the market is large due to the concept of interventional glaucoma and advantages that iDose provides over topical PGA therapies and other IOP lowering therapies, namely the compliance aspect of topical eye drops and the improved topical safety. So with that, we are excited to participate in today's panel and take your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tomas. So do you think this technology will be geared towards those who are currently MIG surgeons, or do you feel that non-MIG surgeons will adopt this technology?
I'll take that one. Good question. So as we think about our commercialization strategies, we are going to be highly strategic and targeted, just like all of our prior launches, if not with even more rigor. Experienced angle-based surgeons are no doubt the clear and immediate opportunity, I think, for all the reasons. Similar technique in terms of gonioscopy skills, similar implantation techniques, et cetera. But I do think iDose is going to expand the market for really two reasons for those surgeons sitting on the sidelines. I think the first is that we're delivering a pharmaceutical agent which are highly, highly proven, but in a 24/7 consistent therapy mechanism that's going to guarantee 100% compliance. So we're getting the best of both worlds here. I think the second thing is the label that we're seeking is to target IOP reduction in open-angle glaucoma as well as ocular hypertensive patients, which in turn will allow more patients to be treated. So I think for those two reasons, among several others, but I do think it's going to expand the market.
Great. So, Dave, it was mentioned that it has no effect on the endothelium. Can you expand on what that means? So, I mean, I'm the first person in the world as a cornea surgeon to want to get everything off the ocular surface. Absolutely. But when you stick things into the eye near the cornea, sometimes it affects things over time. So how long did you follow out this patient cohort, and what percentage per year of endothelial cell loss was your baseline?
So I think I'll let Tomas address the clinical data, but let me just describe a little bit the implantation, the nature of how the implant sits in the iridocorneal angle. It's implanted through a clear corneal incision temporal at the nasal side, and about 2/3 of the device or so is in the anterior chamber, and the balance is anchored in the sclera. And when it's implanted, it kind of naturally sits away from the cornea and down along the iris, parallel with the iris plane. So theoretically, there's low chance that it's even in contact with the cornea.
So let me take the second half of the question, and thank you so much for raising it. From the start, we very carefully prospectively characterized the impact on corneal endothelium. And ultimately, the most extensive follow-up that we have conducted as part of our clinical development program was to follow patients in the first implantation cycle in our phase 2b study for a period of 3.5 to 4.5 years. And then we invited those patients back and conducted implantation of a second round implant and removed the original implant and followed these patients for another year. So in total, we followed these patients for 2 implantation cycles that extended over a period of 5 to 6 years as a min and max. And in this follow-up, we did not see a single patient with any adverse events of corneal endothelial cell loss. So this makes us confident that we are seeking the right dosing paradigm and unlimited redosing and re-administration of iDose on the original prescribing information.
Yeah, I'm with Nick. I certainly welcome sustained delivery systems. Right now, as you know, there's only one on the market, Durysta of AbbVie. What have you learned from their experience of the past 2 or 3 years with Durysta?
Let me first raise some clinical distinctions, and I'll pass it on to Cody to maybe discuss any sort of commercial implications. I think Durysta is limited to single administration per eye per lifetime of the patient, given that there was a fairly pronounced signal on the corneal endothelium with this implant. That's in the prescribing information as indicated by the US FDA. For our product, we have no corneal endothelial cell loss in this 2 implantation cycle follow-up extending through a period of 5 to 6 years. And furthermore, in our phase 3 program, in the 2 pivotal studies, we followed additional 100 patients for now a period of 1 year and beyond. And we do not see corneal endothelial cell loss and adverse events associated with that. So that's the first distinction we'd like to draw on the safety side. I think second distinction is with regard to the duration. Today in later presentation we'll discuss that for our program in a phase 3 studies we had 23% of patients who came into the trial on 2 to 3 topical IOP lowering medications. So that's a fairly high baseline pharmacotherapy, which in the trial was replaced by a single travoprost pharmacotherapy delivered via iDose. Despite this baseline pharmacotherapy, we saw 81% of patients completely topical IOP medication free at 12 months in the phase 3 program. And in the completed phase 2B studies, we saw 69% of patients still well controlled at 3 years on the same or lesser number of topical IOP lowering medications. So we believe the ability to redose based on the excellent corneal endothelial safety and the what we believe is an unsurpassed duration will give our product significant advantage.
Perhaps the only thing I'll add from a commercial standpoint is Allergan and AbbVie did a great job launching Durysta. And clearly there's an unmet need here in the marketplace. And I think the desire for sustained release is there. The patients want that, improves quality of life. And I think we're taking some of the learnings in the marketplace and going to apply them for iDose. But I think that naturally the profile of iDose lends itself pretty well in the marketplace.
So I think you bring up a great point here, which is now we have this great technology and we want to use it on everybody. So let's say we're, next year we're ready to roll, wheels up, right? We're ready to go. How are we going to pay for it? How is the surgery center or the hospital going to be reimbursed? How long do we have to wait until the doctor gets some sort of reimbursement? Where are you going with this?
Good question. Market access, the bane of our existence here. But I think the unique thing with iDose is it's going to be a little bit different than current glaucoma procedures. There's going to be a J code to cover the cost of the drug, and then we're going to have a separate category 3T code, which is going to cover the facility and professional fee payments. You're still going to have all the similar barriers to knock down when we're establishing a new product in the marketplace. But the Glaukos team, we've got a lot of experience, and frankly, we're going through this with iStent Infinite now. So the typical establishing coverage and payment, working with Medicare and commercial payers to establish LCDs, appeal claims, denials, et cetera. We're going to have to do all that, but this coding structure is a little bit different in nature, so I think that will help facilitate adoption.
But the coding structure is similar to iLink, and often insurance companies will come back and say, yeah, but we're just going to pay for the drug, but we're not going to pay for this, and we certainly aren't going to pay the doctor.
Yep.
So we're always last.
Sure.
So, how is your sales, how is everybody going to, mobilize to really make this amazing technology available for our patients?
Yeah, and I can assure you this is one of the top priorities within Glaukos right now that we're thinking through. I'll spare the details here as we're still pre-commercial, but that is top of mind. And we've got a large market access team, and we've added more people to that team to make sure that it goes well.
Maybe one additional point I would like to raise is that we try to build the most compelling data sets for the managed markets. And so we would like to highlight that today we are presenting an analysis of a subgroup of patients who came to the study on a single PGA pre-study, and we showed that administration of iDose leads to statistically superior improvement in IOP lowering versus real-world use of the pre-study PGA eye drops. And we believe that this statistical superiority, providing better IOP coverage for the patients with iDose, will be compelling to the payers.
I hope so. So where, just 1 second here, because I know that Glaukos is going to try and take over the world. Where are you guys in 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What is the vision here, Dave?
You want to take it, Tomas?
So let me take the first crack at this.
Okay,
So, as you know, our ambition has extended far beyond the original iStent product, wherein Glaukos created the class of trabecular bypass devices in the MIG marketplace. We are looking at it as really structured waves of products based on our pipeline that covers 3 different subtherapeutic areas: glaucoma, cornea, and retina. We are making excellent progress in the cornea franchise as well. Yesterday, we announced acceleration of our second phase 3 study for the Epioxa keratoconus treatment, for example. We have also committed to initiate the retina clinical program before the end of the year. So we see these waves of products that come in stages. The first wave of products is driven by the standalone administration of iStent Infinite and the iDose, followed by additional expansion of our orphan disease portfolio, second generation Epioxa. Then third wave, the prescription pharmaceuticals based on our iLution platform, which is a dropless platform leveraging eyelid cream transdermal delivery. And then last, we'll have the retinal products coming out. So that's the vision of fully integrated pharmaceutical and medical device company with fully stocked and loaded pipeline and portfolio.
All right, I think that's all the time we have for Glaukos. Thank you so much. And I'll ask Nick to introduce our next panelists.
Great. So next we have the LENSAR people on Ally. So we want you to give your presentation and we'll get into it. Do you want to all introduce yourself first?
Sure. I'm Nick Curtis. I'm the CEO of LENSAR.
I'm Lauren Gyoerkoe, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing.
I'm Alan Connaughton, COO at LENSAR.
So LENSAR is a surgeon-centric organization. We're focused on bringing best-in-class femtosecond laser-assisted cataract surgery technology to surgeons and their patients. Our primary goal is to improve efficiencies, improve the outcomes, as well as to improve the overall experience for the cataract patient as well as the surgeon in their cataract journey. And we're really excited to be launching the Ally product. We launched in the 4th quarter of last year, and we're gaining traction every day as evidenced by physicians here that were heretofore not LENSAR users. And our goal is to become the leader in the femtosecond laser-assisted cataract surgery space, as well as to expand the market to more users as time goes on.
I have a question about this technology. The Ally's position is OR technology, but we know that certain patients won't benefit from flax or won't have flax. Do we roll out that unit and bring in another unit for more complex cataracts? Or is your device has sophistication as a standalone phaco unit if you're not doing the femto part?
So with the launch of Ally, there is no phacoemulsification device in the unit. The first few units that went out had the phacoemulsification device in it. That's been disabled. And the product that we are launching, the femtosecond laser that we're launching as Ally, stands alone as a femtosecond laser. It can be put into the OR. It's a fraction of the size of current units. It also can be moved within 250 degrees of the patient bed. It's extremely fast. There was no reason to wait for the clearance of the phacoemulsification device. The femtosecond laser in and of itself can replace a lot of the technology that's in the marketplace today.
So the goal, though, however, was to have a phaco and a femto in a sterile environment, correct? Was that the goal of the Ally?
So that still is the goal, to do this. Mm-hmm. But the femtosecond laser in and of itself, in terms of going into the OR and the features that we have within the Ally device can be utilized no matter what phacoemulsification device surgeons are using. And so when that device gets cleared, it will be integrated into our device, and it'll be an option for surgeons that can add the device if they want the device as an integrated device, or they can use the femtosecond laser as a standalone device.
So in a surgery center that has multiple users, when you have 6 ORs, we have to buy 6 Allies, or can they, pick and choose what rooms they go in with different phaco units? Is that your?
I think it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a proposition, and so the reality is that We have multiple sites today that are forward-thinking, that want to do the procedure in the OR because of the high efficiencies that it will allow. You can also have fewer touches from a staff perspective. It's a much better experience for the patient. And so the reality is that we have multiple practices that are adding more than one device and putting them into each of the ORs today in anticipation of that or not. And the reality is that if someone wants to use the phaco machine that they're most comfortable with, it's not a problem.
Let me just add to that, because I think the ability for us to launch without having a phaco in it has really allowed for surgeons that are in a feeder model to just replace that laser with our laser in a feeder model. And those surgeons are experiencing just as much efficiency as those surgeons who are doing it in the OR. Obviously, there's a lot more time savings if you are going to do a completely sterile procedure. But the promise of Ally and having it be only 22 inches wide and being able to fit in the OR still allows for surgeons who, like we said, are forward-thinking in wanting to do a sterile flax procedure to be able to do that, but also allows for the current system of feeder model also to be fulfilled.
How about in-office surgery? Would this have an indication?
I think that it fits very well in an in-office surgery environment. I mean, again, the device can go into pretty much any operating room given the small size of the footprint, and it can be placed anywhere. Like today, traditionally, femtosecond lasers can only fit into one position, with the exception of our current LLS, which can be put into 3 different positions, superiorly or temporally on either side. This device has the ability to be moved anywhere within 250 degrees of the patient, yet still do the iris registration and whatnot. And so really for us, bringing astigmatism management mainstream to cataract surgery is another very important part of this. And again, in line with improving efficiencies, improving outcomes, and improving the experience for the patient. What people are seeing right now is that they're able to reduce their surgical days and save an hour to an hour and a half over the course of the day. Now you can either add more cases, and you know that brings a lot more income into the surgeon as well as to the surgery center, or you can finish the surgery day earlier than what you had planned and yet still generate. And so that's why we believe that it's better for surgeons, it's better for the practice, and that it's ultimately better for the patient as well.
So LENSAR, brought something to the table in femto that no one had, right? At the time, you had iris registration, you have tabs on the capsulotomy. You can make toric placement a no-brainer. This is what differentiates your laser from other lasers. The problem is, and femtosecond laser as a category is losing interest, and it's at its lowest in the last 10 years. So how are you going to re-energize this area? And as a one product company, how do you sustain this?
So, one reason why the technology has lost some interest is, let's face it, it's getting old in the tooth. And there haven't been much in the way of any upgrades or sustained investment from the companies into the technology. And the reality is that you've got about 55% of surgeons that say they do femtosecond laser surgery today, and 45% of surgeons, 34% of those 45% either started doing it and abandoned it, or about 11% are still undecided after 12 years of the technology being out there. And when we sat down to design the Ally device, we really looked at the drivers as to why people that abandon it or don't do it, why? What would that technology need to look like, and how would it need to perform? As well as attracting the doctors that are very much sold on the femtosecond laser and wouldn't do a premium case without it. And I think that when you take a look at Ally, and I think as evidence for that, you see that on average, MarketScope says that we're doing 74% more procedures on average with our LLS device, the current device, than the competitive devices that are out there. And now that same surgeon that is using Ally, same surgeons that are using Ally, they've increased their volume an additional 21% since that. And so we believe the market for us is to replace the femtosecond lasers, the old femtosecond lasers that are in the marketplace today that have been there for 12 years. That will start to re-energize the market so that surgeons that have been sitting on the sidelines and those that abandon it, when they see that they can reduce treatment times, when they can get better outcomes with astigmatism management as routine, and that the patient has a better experience by having it in the OR, will begin to pick this up.
So with the exception of footprint, how do you see your laser differentiating from Alcon or J&J and others?
Yeah, I think the biggest differences are in relation to the speed of the device, and so like patient throughput and like real meaningful throughput. Also, like Nick had mentioned, that you can bring the patient in at kind of any angle around the system. And then the fact that we can go and we have a lot of different preoperative devices that can actually interface with the system. And so that really just makes it a much better, smoother, streamlined process for the patient.
So tough question. Over the years, you guys have had to reinvent yourself, right? And you came out strong, and here you are, right? We're all here together. What is in the pipeline? What is your journey to moving forward to being, you know, the next big device company in femtosecond laser? Are you going to be able to like liquefy a lens? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, for us, when we designed the Ally device, it was really about the system being a workstation. And so with particular emphasis on like scalability in terms of connectivity. And when you think of connectivity, think of preoperative devices. EMRs, think of microscopes and heads-up displays that we might interact with. And also in adding indications. And so right now, right, we've just launched Ally, and so it's all about releasing, we're just about to release a new software update based on the experience and feedback that we've had. In the midterm, what we're looking to do is to do more complex corneal procedures. And so, and we think we can do that with minimal changes in hardware on the system. And when you think of complex corneal procedures, think like, you know, potentially LASIK flaps and whatnot. And then lastly, when you think more long range, you know, we have different concepts in the cataract field that we want to try and really approach. And so one of the things we've spent a lot of time on early on, before we even got into this whole femtophaco, was looking at IP from, you know, everything related to femtophaco, to everything from femto in a microscope to all these different ideas that we're looking to bring, you know, in this next kind of 5 years. And so it really is that we're bringing a workstation of different indications and features.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you to the program directors for inviting us to moderate this session. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.